Hi, James here from Adventure Bike Rider magazine, and welcome to episode 3 of the ABR Garage. Now, this episode is dedicated to touring plans for 2021, and I'm joined in the garage today by two people making their debuts. Bryn Davis, managing editor of Adventure Bike Rider, and Ollie Rook, staff writer of ABR magazine. Welcome to the garage, guys.
Thank you for having us. It's great to be here, even virtually.
Yeah,
And it is a virtual garage today. So, Bryn, whereabouts are you talking to us from?
I am talking to you from probably the most adventurous room in Wellesbourne, my dining room. Yeah,
Nice. Have you got any food with you? Have you got a spread on as well?
I haven't got food with me, but I do have my adventurous mug. So,
Good stuff.
that's going to get
Ollie,
a brilliant reaction.
Ollie, you're looking a little bit chilly. Where are you talking to us from?
I'm coming to you live from the summit of Mount Everest, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, hence the coat. No, I'm in my garage. It's rather cold. My door is wide open so that I can get the light in, so that I'm lit up. But yeah, I'm in my actual garage. I took the ABR Garage literally, and I'm paying for it with frostbite.
There we go. And so regular viewers might have noticed that there's a bit of a different backdrop to me today. So previous episodes of the ABR Garage, much like Ollie today, were filmed in the garage of the Adventure Bike Rider offices. But we decided to, I decided that I needed to warm up a little bit. So we've decked out a studio, and we've got a place that's become a bit of a hub for us here at ABR, because it's probably the nicest room in the building.
it's looking great.
So guys, great to see you. It's been a difficult January for us all. It's been hard to get out on two wheels because of the lockdown that's happening in the UK. Bryn, have you been able to get out and about on the bike at all?
No. I tell you what,
No?
I managed to get out once. A bit weird to be saying as the managing editor of a motorcycle magazine. I don't actually have a bike at the moment, which is it's a shame for me. Tiny violin. But no, I managed to borrow Ollie's Africa Twin behind him just there for an evening and rode it home from work one night. And I realised why Ollie let me borrow it when I looked at the fuel gauge and it was empty.
This isn't
That's
exactly
very
true.
kind.
Yeah, he was all keen for it. He was saying, "Bryn, take the Africa Twin." Go on, please do. I'll take the Tiger. And I think when I was pushing it to the garage, I realised why.
I did hear a rumour that, I heard a rumour they had to push it about 100 yards. Was that the case?
Yes, Ollie left me high and dry. No
It's a
doubt
classic
about
tale of fake news, I'll tell you that.
So, Ollie, you look like you've got a good setup there in your garage, bike squeezed in. Have you been out and about on any of those bikes lately?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to do a little bit of commuting to the ABR office on the Africa Twin, and obviously the weekly journey to my local Sainsbury's, which isn't too adventurous. But luckily enough, last week we took delivery of the Ducati Multistrada V4S, and James, you and I managed to go out with ABR bike tester Julian and get some photos and video of that road test, which was an awesome day out.
It was. It's actually it's the first time that any of us actually been able to get out for work since the turn of year, with the lockdown and so forth happening and the snow and ice. But yeah, that Multistrada V4 turned up gleaming outside of the front of the office. I was on video duties. Ollie, you were on photography duty. We pretty much spent the day following Julian, ABR's bike tester, through a fantastic route through the Cotswolds on twisty roads, a few faster roads, and even some green lanes. And it just felt so good to be out on a bike again, having fun, enjoying ourselves.
And what a bike to be following.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got to be honest. I was sat in my desk, so jealous of the two of you and Julian. You picked a perfect day for it as well. Last week it was like spring had sprung. It was, we might have even got up to double-digit temperatures. There was sunshine in the air, and that bike when Julian rolled it off the back of that van. Ooh.
Gorgeous.
That just about sums it up. Ooh.
There we go. What do you reckon? I'm putting it out there. The best looking adventure bike ever made?
For me, yes.
Wow.
Beauty is, often say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. For this beholder right here, yeah, it's the difference between the V4 and the other Multistradas is night and day. Somehow they've made it look so much sexier. It's just such aggressive styling. You need to see it in the flesh. Photos don't do it justice, no matter how good a photographer Ollie is.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's. I mean, it's just a photographer's dream to get shots of. It's every single, even like the worst photos, it just looks stunning. But I agree with Bryn. I think it's one of those ones that you really need to see it in the flesh to just appreciate it. It's beautiful, and I think the quality of how it's put together and everything is just stunning as well. It's a premium bike, and yeah, it's up there with one of the best looking, in my humble opinion.
It's a piece of craftsmanship, isn't it?
It is.
But one of the things I noticed being sat at it was that it felt very much more like the Multistrada Enduro rather than the standard Multistrada 1260 that we had as a long-term bike last year. You're a little bit more upright, you're a little bit more further back, and it was kind of more adventure bike stance than sport bike stance, really, which for me as an adventure bike rider, I thought was fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah, if that is, I haven't ridden it yet, but if that is the case, then that look, I'm all fully on board with that. The Multistrada Enduro was probably the most comfortable adventure bike I've ridden. But yeah, I'm excited to have a go on it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we could sit here all day talking about our lust for the Multistrada V4, but this episode of the ABR Garage is dedicated to touring plans for 2021. But before we get into that, we thought we'd just take a look at a couple of the comments that were left from the previous ABR Garage, which was all about riding the UK leg of the Trans Euro Trail. So I've got the comments here. The first is left by Wiltshire Byways. Now, I'm pretty sure that Mr. Wiltshire Byways had a key role in actually creating the TET route in the UK. But he says, I'm pleased you're enjoying the TET. 2 new loops have recently been added, the Tetty Trail in South Wales and the Borderlands Trail in the north of Newcastle. Now, the Trans-Euro Trail, a collection of unpaved roads and quieter roads that will take you throughout Europe and the UK. It's a brilliant route. So, Bryn, news of an extension to it, surely that's got to get you excited.
Absolutely, yeah. It's. I mean, how long is the Trans-Euro Trail in the UK at the moment? What, 2,000 miles?
Oh,
2,000 plus, 2,000,
I think, right? Maybe over about 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes from Dover in the east, across to Bristol. You can zip down to Cornwall, up through Wales, and up across the north of England to Newcastle.
Yeah. So it seems like it's pretty well suited to people who want a long dirt-based route anyway. But the 2 additions in South Wales and in north of Newcastle are going to sound fantastic. I spent a lot of time north of Newcastle riding through Kielder Forest and the rest of Northumberland, and it's one of my favourite places.
That's your go-to biking area, isn't it, really?
Yeah, mostly I stick to the tarmac when I'm up there because I don't really have much knowledge of the green lanes. So having that resource there to ride the Borderlands Trail, it's on my list of things to tick off.
Once lockdown's over, come on.
Yeah, like everything. Once lockdown's over, I'll do it.
Yeah.
What about you, Ollie? We've spoken about maybe going out and doing some more of the TET this year. Are you still game?
100%. I mean, like Bryn said, the tricky thing is when you go on tour, you're not entirely sure where the best trails are, and you don't really want to spend half a day touring with an OS map out. So having all of these loops of the TET means that even if we're not going to go and do the full 19 days or 21 days or probably longer that it's going to take now, we can go and do a 2 or 3 day section in a week, as well as a bit of tarmac based riding, and just get into it, be guided along the way by the hard work of other people who have, fair play to the linesmen who have put this all together. And it's, the TET website is a fantastic resource for future tours.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so the next comment is from John G, who said, I really enjoyed the discussion. But hey guys, it's not off-road, it's off-tarmac. These are legal roads and require a fully road-legal bike and rider. And you can legally ride all of these roads. So John G's referring to the fact that when ABR's bike tester Julian and I were talking about the TET during the last ABR Garage, we spoke about riding on-road and off-road. And it's kind of a shorthand, it's a slightly lazy way of talking about green lanes. But actually, Bryn, I think John G's got a pretty fair point there.
I would say so. Yeah, it's one of those where I can see why you would try and encourage people to call them green roads. Was that what? Green roads?
Yeah, I think it was used to be green lanes, but I think the TRF are trying to call them green roads now to really hammer home the point that these are legal ways to ride.
Yeah, I suppose it's the moment you start saying off-road and the moment you start saying off-road, it sort of implies that you're maybe not supposed to be there. But he definitely has a point. But for most people, I think they'll continue to call it off-road.
Yeah, and Ollie, you helped me put together the ABR guide to green laning in Britain, which is available from the Adventure Bike Rider website as a free download. And very much, these green lanes, green roads, they are legal, and you also need to adhere to the law to ride them, don't you?
Yep, your bike needs to be fully road legal, registered, insured, taxed. You need to have the correct license to be riding it. It needs to have passed a valid MOT, all of that good stuff. But like Bryn said as well, saying off-road is a bit of a shorthand way of dealing with it. And I think it's a fair point. But yeah, it's kind of we'll probably still call it off-road from time to time. It's just the nature of
as mistakes. But cheers, John G. Good shout. John G is actually, I think, a member of the Trail Riders Fellowship, the TRF. And so if you are looking to get into off-road green laning or green roading, joining your local TRF group is a great way to meet people with loads of knowledge about where you can ride, and they'll teach you about trail etiquette and stuff like that. So certainly a good resource to look up if you're thinking about venturing on green lanes or green roads for the first time.
Yeah, and I just said the TRF also have a big presence at the ABR Festival, and they help out massively by offering guided tours, maybe not tours, but guided ride-outs of the green lanes of the Midlands. And if you want to get a feel for what the TRF is like, at the ABR Festival is a perfect place to sort of speak to the guys, join them on a ride-out, make use of their vast knowledge of trail riding.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, well, thanks for your comments. If you've got any about this video, please do leave them below the video. And we'll move on to, which is the subject of this ABR Garage, which is touring plans for 2021. Now, the inspiration for this episode came from a feature that appears in issue 60. 61, issue 61.
61, yeah.
61 of Adventure Bike Rider magazine, called Tours for 2021. And it featured lots of trips, tours, journeys, events, basically a whole heap of inspiration to get out riding in 2021, after plenty of us missed out on a fair amount of it last year. If you want to take a look at the feature, and also Julian Chalice, ABR Bike Testers, Trans-Euro Trail features, which also have appeared in various issues of ABR, sign up to the Adventure Bike Rider digital library, and it gives you access to every single issue of ABR ever printed. So that's 10 years worth of inspiration, knowledge and entertainment on your phone, your computer and your tablet. All you need to do is go to www.adventurebikerider.com to sign up. But on with the episode. So first of all, I thought it was quite a good opportunity just to have a little chat about maybe some of the bike trips that we missed out on last year, which is a good reason to why we've been kind of thinking about what we can do this year to make up for it. So Bryn, did you have any brilliant bike tours planned that you just couldn't do because of 2020 was 2020?
I did, yeah. So we started off, when was it? March time, the lockdown came into effect and coronavirus became a big part of everyone's life. Around about that time, we were firmly making plans to go to the ABR Island Rally Ireland, which we went to in 2019, and it was a fantastic weekend. It's a brilliant weekend put on by guys from the Adventure Bike Rider Forum. It's a chap called Alex. He goes by the name of Hef. And he does a great job of organising a place for people to camp, ride outs in the day, and just it's a great place to meet other adventure riders. And in 2019, we all went across everyone from the Adventure Bike Rider office. You remember that, James? It was great fun.
It was a cracking week. It's a lot of Guinness, huge
a
amount
lot of Guinness. But it was in May. It was supposed to be in May last year, and we got to March, and I remember speaking to Stena Line, the ferry company, about whether they think we'll still be able to go over. And at that point, even though we just entered lockdown, they were quite hopeful, which looking back now seems a bit crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously lockdown and coronavirus scuppered those plans.
Yeah.
And then, even when we were allowed to go places, we think maybe start of June that started maybe, something else popped up that sort of ruined my touring plans. And that
What would
was
that be, Bryn? What would that
that
be?
would be the birth of my first son, Dylan, who is an absolutely lovely little lad. Thank you. He's 7 months old now, and it's great to be a dad. It's great to be a new father and to have a little baby that looks like me. Thankfully,
Future
Poor little
adventure
baby.
bike rider of the world.
yeah, it's great. But I'm sure as anyone watching or listening knows, if you've got a child, you need to pay them some attention and look after them. So that's kind of kept me occupied for the last few months.
Fair enough. And Ollie, did you have anything planned in 2020 that you just had to sadly leave behind?
Well, I was really gutted to miss out on the Ireland Rally. I wasn't part of the team in 2019 when you guys went over there. So I was really gutted. It would have been our first trip overseas together, and I'm sure it would have been brilliant fun. But fingers crossed for 2022. But I actually got a bit lucky with 2020, which I'm very grateful for because I know that some people didn't. I was able to go for a tour around Scotland with a new biking friend, which is, as you guys like to point out, my first biking friend.
Your only
First
friend.
and
You have a friend. Wow. Is he still a friend after the trip?
He is, yeah. I don't think I was that annoying, to be honest with you. I mean, I might have been. I'm quite slow in the morning, but yeah, no. That was a genuine plus. I had plans to maybe go over to the Alps or something like that, and obviously when overseas travel started to get quite complicated, he dropped me a text saying, "Do you fancy heading up to Scotland for a week?" And we spent 7 days riding around, did parts of the North Coast 500, wild camping, and considering the year that we've all had, it was just brilliant. It was a really, really memorable trip, and I wrote about it in issue 60. So, yeah, check it out if you have that issue to hand.
I think if your touring plans have been scuppered and you've still got to go to Scotland, you're pretty lucky. I can imagine a lot of people all around the world would be very jealous of touring around Scotland.
Absolutely, it's just one of the best places in Europe to ride, hands down. I think a lot of people. I imagine it'll be very busy this summer, but I went up in September and it was actually pretty quiet. So 100%, if there are bikers listening who are planning for a tour, you can't go wrong with Scotland. Go a bit out of season. It'll be quite rainy, but it's still beautiful and it's still just perfect roads.
Do you know what with Scotland? Sorry, James. With Scotland,
No, I just love the fact that Ollie's highlight of 2020 silver lining was making a friend, which is lovely. It's sweet.
Oh. But I think with Scotland, I personally, the atmosphere of the place and the scenery is just so haunting, and when it rains, I think it kind of adds to it.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
You
One of
haven't
those
travelled
few
around
places
Scotland if it hasn't been
you can
raining
feel
all
so
year.
remote, can't you? But you can. I think it's one of the few places in the UK you can feel remote and away from everything, and that's such a pleasure, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. Well, for 2020 for me, I didn't get lucky in between lockdowns and managed to get a tour in. And I know compared to everything that's going on in the world still, my missed bike tours are just insignificant. But I was due to go to Norway for work, which I think would have been probably the perfect work trip, the ultimate work trip. I was going there to go with on tour with Edelweiss Bike Travel for a feature for ABR magazine. Called Touring Centre Norway, and basically it was 7 days based in a place called Alesund. I'm not sure if that's how you spell it. You've been there, Ollie. You might know the pronunciation a bit better than I do.
Sounds right to me.
Alesund, yeah. This picturesque kind of a town on a rocky outcrop, staying in a lovely hotel, and basically going out and riding with a bunch of great people every day to various wonderful destinations. So whether it's we were going to the Trollstigen, which is the Trolls Road, we were going to ride the Atlantic Road and all those spectacular bridges that cross that. Basically do loads of great riding, come back to a hotel, eat great food and drink some beer. which is very different to my usual form of motorcycle travel.
It sounds a bit
or
too nice for
touring.
you, that just, James.
Well, yeah, usually I'll jump on a bike, throw a tent on the back and a credit card and just kind of make things up as I go along. But I have to admit, I was looking forward to this one. Yeah. But yeah, you know, I've only been on one organised bike tour before. As I say, usually I just head off on my own or with a mate. But if you've never done one, I would highly recommend them. They're very different, but they are so much fun, so relaxing, and you get to see and enjoy so much. I know, Bryn, you've been on a few, haven't you? Is it something that you'd want to go and do again?
Yeah, 100%. I'm super lucky to have had the privilege of being able to go on these and call it work. But I've been on I've been on a fair few now, and honestly, there's definitely something to be said about going on your own, planning your own route, 100%. But joining a group ride out on an organised tour is such a nice way to do things. You know, you don't have to worry about a single thing, and probably the best thing for me is meeting the group of people you're riding with. You get a good group, and you make friends for life. It's fantastic. Yeah, I'd fully recommend it.
Yeah.
Sounds right up my street, making friends.
Oh,
you could get two.
Yeah, you might be able to double your friend count.
I was also looking to go, not for work, but I was also looking to take a trip out to the USA. Nice. Myself and my wife had planned a trip out to the western states, so we were thinking of going through California, Arizona, Nevada, maybe a bit of Utah, and camping out in the desert, staying in a hotel in Vegas, and just having a really good trip. A couple of friends were keen to join us as well. So it would have been fantastic. But hopefully, you know, we can try and revisit that. If not this year with what's going on in the States, then maybe next year. But oh God, I'm keen to get out and riding again. Yeah. We've but we've looked back on missed opportunities in 2020, which has kind of fueled our desire to go out and make 2021 a year of adventure. And that's what the feature in ABR magazine was all about. So we thought we'd look forward to our plans for 2021 and the routes that we will be riding. But in part 2 of this episode of the ABR Garage, we'll also have a discussion about our dream tour. So if we had an unlimited budget, an unlimited time span, what would we go and do? Who would we do it with? On what bike and so forth? But to begin with, Ollie, what plans have you got for riding this year?
Well, I'm really, really hoping that I'll be able to get overseas and go and do some of the mountain passes, some of the off-road legal trails in the Alps. In particular, I really, really want to ride the Col del Semelia, which is in Italy. So it's a unpaved mountain pass that reaches almost 3,000 meters up into the Alps, and it just looks phenomenal. I know Bryn has ridden it himself, so he is probably going to be able to tell me just how good it is, and also give me a few tips. But yeah, that's my kind of realistic dream, I think, for this year.
Bryn, I think you rode it as part of the putting together the ABR guide to motorcycling in Italy, didn't you?
I did, yep. And as far as sort of trips to do this year, what a fantastic one to do. So for those who don't know, the Col del Semelia is it's in northwest Italy, and if you look on a map, the closest little place on the map is a little town or village called Bardonecchia. And every year they host a rally called the Stella Alpina rally there, which is it's a meeting of bikers, and the whole purpose of it is to see how far you can get up the Col del Semelia. And the reason I say how far up is because most of the time it's covered by snow because it's so high. And fortunately, when I went there, as you said, James, when we were doing the guide to riding around Italy, it was back in 2018, which is the summer when we had that crazy heat wave. I mean, it was like 36 degrees a lot of the days. But we went in October, so typically late in the season. But we managed to get right to the very top without any snow.
In October?
Oh, wow.
In October, yeah.
That's very late.
It was very late, but the weather was stunning. It was perfect. Yeah, and so to give you an idea of what it's like, you come out of Bardonecchia and it's up this really unassuming mountain road, single-track mountain road. And before long, that road sort of veers off to the left, but a gravel trail carries on straight up, and you think, this isn't anything particularly special, and then you just carry on up there for about well, a good few miles, and you come to a mountain refuge, and then after that it just gets incredible. Right in front of you, there's like this wall of zigzag. The trail zigzags up this wall, and
cool.
I can't remember how many zigzags there are, but you go up past these, but you sort of crest a pass and onto this mountain plateau which opens up, and it's like you're in the middle of nowhere. There's huge mountains all around you. It's like an amphitheatre of mountains, and then the trail again then climbs up even further up, more zigzags, but with looser, rockier trails, which gets a bit nervy.
Big drop-offs, I bet, as well.
Big drop-offs, yeah. And I was on the Ducati Multistrada Enduro, which big heavy bike, big heavy bike, yeah. And our cameraman actually decided not to come up that part. He just flew the drone up following me because And so I carried on all the way up, and I've got to the top feeling super accomplished, super proud of myself. And I looked around, and there was this VW van with this old boy sat outside it on a deck chair, taking in the sun with his dog running around. And then all of a sudden, any thoughts of being a hardcore adventurer sort of left my mind.
You just burst that adventure bubble like there.
It did, yeah. God, it did.
But did he offer you a cold beer or something like that?
He didn't. He kind of just looked at me indifferently and was like, well, thanks for ruining the silence, as the Ducati thundered away. But yeah, if you've got plans to go to Italy this year and you've got some off-roading ability, crack on. It's incredible.
Yeah, and you can download the guide to Italy, or motorcycling in Italy, from the Adventure Bike Rider website.
Yep.
And it's absolutely free. All you've got to do is go on and download it, and it's got loads of information about riding throughout the country. The country has been split up into various different regions with the best roads highlighted, and it's a fantastic resource if you're looking to explore what is one of my favourite countries to explore by motorcycle. I actually took my honeymoon there for 3 weeks on a motorbike, so I've got incredible memories of riding there. And I did convince my wife to honeymoon on a motorbike, which is
she's still your wife.
Lucky man. She is still my wife. Yeah, I offered her the Maldives, I offered her beaches, but she wanted to jump on the back of a bike and go and explore Italy, which was
amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah, living the
Dream.
That's it. So what my plans for this year, it's all about the mountains, like you, Ollie. As soon as it's safe to travel, I'm just heading to the mountains, man. I'm desperate to get a fix of some mountain passes. I usually get out to the Alps. I try to get out there every year. I can't always. But I'm just going to jump on a ferry. I'm going to blitz through France, probably on the toll roads, and empty my wallet. Sorry, France, you're amazing, but I need to get to the Alps. I need to get to Switzerland. I'm going to head over to the Carousel and ride the Furka, the Susten, and the Grimsel Pass, and then just gorge on an orgy of twisty mountain passes.
All I heard there was gorge
That's
on an orgy.
Gorge on an orgy of twisty mountain passes, and just make the most of the scenery and the riding, and it's oh god, I'm looking forward to it. And it's actually something that I've been thinking about doing for a while on a series of weekends, because a lot of us go out for rides at the weekends, and before everything happened in 2020, I was looking at the viability of going to the Alps. Leave work on a Friday, maybe catch a flight and rent a bike, or whiz down and ride the Furka, the Grimsel, the Susten Pass, the Three Peaks, and a few others before, returning Sunday and going back to work. So I kind of like the idea of seeing if that's viable or not this year. I think that would be good.
That'd be an awesome weekender.
Yeah,
it would, wouldn't it? Imagine leaving work on a Friday. Maybe take a half day on a Friday, and then you come back on Monday morning. You got all your colleagues saying, "Oh, so what did you do this weekend?" Expecting you to say, "Oh, I had a Zoom party with my family." But you could say, "No, I went and rode around the Alps." Imagine that. It would be so cool.
It would be good. It would certainly beat last weekend, which was a lockdown weekend, and not too much happened, but I had great fun anyway.
Yeah, a lot did happen though, which was Scotland beat England in the rugby, which, being called Bryn Davis and being proud of my Welsh heritage, was great to hear.
There you go. My knowledge of rugby is minimal, so I'll say yes. Well done.
All you need to know is that Scotland beat England.
So sorry, Ollie, go for it.
That's all right. I was going to say, Bryn, what are your plans for this year?
My plans, good question. They're kind of loose at the moment, depending on when. Basically, Dylan is going to be 1 in July, and me and Naomi need to figure out when it's acceptable to leave a baby with some relatives for a week, so we can disappear. And if we can disappear for a week, then I would say we'll nip down to the Alps and probably wave at James. But for me, there's one ride that I'm looking forward to more than anything right now, and that is when we get the okay that lockdown is, restrictions are over, restaurants can open, we can go out and rule of 6, whatever. When that happens, I'm meeting you two at the office. You've got no say in this, right? I'm meeting you two at the office early morning, and we're going to go and ride that Wales coast to coast route. Yeah. And we're going to get a greasy fry up in the morning. I realised the other day it's been over a year since I had a fry up at a calf. How crazy is that?
Wow. Shocking.
It is shocking. No man should have to go through that.
Should be against the law. It really should.
Yeah. So we're going to go get a greasy fry up, and then ride some amazing roads through the Brecon Beacons, through Mid Wales, do some green lanes, and then have fish and chips in Aberystwyth.
Sounds good to me.
It's amazing. But before we get to, I guess, explaining what the coast to coast is, more importantly, where you're going to get your fry up and what's going to be on it.
Oh, do you know, that's such a good question, and one I could talk to you all day about. But
keep it succinct.
I can't remember the name of the place, but there's this great place in the Brecon Beacons. We went there last time we went over there, and
is that the petrol station?
It's part of the petrol station. They do such a good fry up. If I can find the name of it, I'll leave it in the section below this video. But basically, my dream fry up, right, is sausages, black pudding, bacon. I'd go for a poached egg because I'm fancy. Beans and hash brown. Double all that up. Get rid of your mushrooms and your tomatoes, and then give me 2 slices of toast and some fried bread.
Wait, how are you going to ride after that? I'm in a coma.
Probably in an ambulance.
Yeah. Fair enough. And was that, if I remember rightly, we all went last time we went to Wales, we all stopped at that cafe, and Ollie ordered the baby breakfast. Was it?
Baby rook.
Yeah. I knew that was going to get brought up. I knew my baby breakfast would get brought up. I thought I was being savvy because full Englishes are usually overly large, but I wasn't savvy. It was tiny. It was humiliating.
Half a sausage, half an egg.
we had to cut it up for him, didn't we? We had to cut it up for him and feed it to him. Came with a bib as well.
Oh dear. Oh well. Moving on. The Wales coast to coast.
Yes.
We should explain what that's all about, and I'll build up to it by saying I think it's probably the best riding I've ever done in the UK. So, Bryn, what exactly is the Wales coast to coast?
The Wales coast to coast route is part of a series of 4 routes we put together with Bridgestone, which is the clues in the name. It's coast to coast ride across Wales, but this one in particular starts in a little place called Goldcliff, which is just by Newport, so easily accessible off the M4.
It's on the south coast, right?
It's on the south coast. And then it goes all the way up through the Brecon Beacons. You get to ride fantastic roads there, sweeping A roads, and then it dips into Mid Wales, which for me is what you say. I think the term like the best and the most beautiful, I overuse it a lot.
Yeah.
But this place, the Mid Wales, if you've never ridden in Mid Wales, you have to. It's sensational.
It's incredible.
Yeah. But so it's there's a mixture of, really tight Nadgery roads there, single track, beautiful views, fast flowing A and B roads. There's that beautiful reservoir, Llyn Brian, which we stopped at. You could stay there for hours just looking. And then there's the Devil's Staircase, which is a series of probably about 3 really, really steep hairpin bends where Ollie almost dropped his Africa Twin once.
You can see, I think you can see the lean angle on the Africa Twin that behind me. Yeah, that was hairy. I remember that.
And then obviously you've got the Clairwen Reservoir, which is
yes, you do. When you get to Rhyadr, you get the Clairwen Reservoir, which has this sensational green lane going along the side of it. It's not a technical green lane by any means. But it's if you want a feeling of being out there in the middle of nowhere, super remote, super just life affirming. That's the green lane up the side of the Clairwyn Reservoir is incredible. But the problem is, it's not. You can't ride all the way through unless you get permission from the farmer. So if you do go and ride the Clairwyn Reservoir green lane, you have to ask the farmer's permission when you get to the farmhouse. Be kind, be polite.
Yeah, and I remember last time we were there, we were lucky that he was out pretty close to it, wasn't he? We gave him a wave, and he waved us through. But yeah, it's his land, so yeah, we do need to ask permission before we ride through it.
Yeah, and then after that you get to this place which I've heard referred to as Wales's Lake District. So you get off this green lane and you just crest over this, I guess it's a mountain pass. It's stretching out in front of you. It's just loads of like a ripple of hills and mountains, and then beautiful tiny lakes dotted around all over the place.
And the road through it is like a roller coaster, isn't it? It's just up and down, up and down. I remember riding that. That was glorious.
Yeah,
and then it goes through to Aberystwyth, doesn't it? And I remember being sort of towards the end of the day, having had a brilliant day, but I was pretty knackered. And then you just get on this fast, sweeping, incredible A road, and it just rejuvenated me completely.
That's it. And then the best bit of it, forget all that riding, you get fish and chips.
Nice.
I can't wait.
It's probably it's the unhealthiest air riding you can probably have, but it's really good for your soul, which is great.
Which is what we need right now. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we do. So talking of what we need, well, we're going to be looking in part 2 of the ABR Garage about what we're dreaming of, and that is a dream tour with no time limit, an unlimited budget, just 2 wheels and freedom. But we're please.
Could I just nip in there and say that if you want to follow the Wales coast to coast route from Goldcliff to Aberystwyth, we'll leave a link in the section, the description below the video that you're watching, which has the GPX files, so you can download it, put it in your sat nav, and ride it yourself.
And please don't go do it. Do go do it, because it's incredible. But anyway, that's the end of part 1 of the ABR Garage. And we'll talk about dream bike tours in part 2. Hi, and welcome back to part 2 of the ABR Garage. Now, we're going to talk about our dream motorcycle journeys. Well, something that we'd love to do in 2021, with no time limit, no budget, just 2 wheels and the open road. Now, with so much choice out there, it's been difficult to narrow it down. So I'm not going to go first. I'm going to give myself a bit more time. I'm going to go to Bryn. What would be your dream trip for 2021?
My dream trip is I'd imagine most people's idea of hell, which
it's going to be cold, isn't it? It's going to be cold, dark, miserable.
It's going to be dark. It's going to be miserable. All of that, but it's my dream trip. And what it is I want to ride to Nordkap, which is the most northerly point of Europe, in winter.
I was with you until you said winter.
Yeah, in winter. Ollie's done it, you haven't you? You rode to Nordkap in, it must have been summer, I presume.
Yeah, I chose summer because I'm, sane and like warmth.
Yeah.
So what is it about winter in Norway that attracts you then?
Do you know what? It's a few things, really. One is I like a challenge. And to me, that's a good challenge to do. But I just love riding. Do you know what? Let me rephrase that. I love riding in the sun. Riding in sunshine with blue skies and open roads is fantastic. It's some of the best fun you can have on a motorcycle and in life. But in my opinion, the rides where everything's perfect and the sun's shining, they all kind of merge into one. If I think about the trips that I really remember and the ones that stay with me and I remember the individual parts of the trip, is when it's been, I don't want to say miserable, but tough.
I'm just thinking about the 3 pubs challenge here.
Yeah, so that's a perfect
the pain,
example.
The cold, the rain.
Yeah, so the 3 pubs challenge was where we rode from we wrote this challenge to ride the 3 highest pubs one in England, one in Scotland, one in Wales, and we did it in October, so it was icy when we woke up, and raining most of the day, and you had a great time.
I did have a great time. It's a brilliant route, and you can read about it in a previous issue of ABR magazine. But a great route, but oh my god, it was cold. It was wet. I see every now and then a video on Facebook of me stood by the side of the road, desperately trying to look warm and upbeat while it's absolutely pissing down with rain, and I'm shivering, trying to explain what I'm up to.
Yeah.
Oh dear. But then you were on a wonderfully comfortable bike, weren't you?
I was. I was on the Multistrada Enduro, which made everything so much more enjoyable. But even without that, if we'd have done it and it had been sunny and everything had gone perfectly, it would have been nothing special. Well, it would.
Fair enough. So what route are you taking up? Are you going up the west coast of Norway?
Yeah. So
yep.
100%. What I'm planning to do in my dream trip is going to be sticking mostly to the coastal roads, all the way up to the top of Norway, and there's very good reason for that, and that is because it's supposed to be a bit milder next to the coast.
You're not a hardcore winter adventure biker then?
I'd say it's still pretty hardcore, and it's interesting that when I was doing a bit of research into looking at how many people had been up to Nordkapp in the middle of winter, and it seems like it's a lot more than I would have thought. There's quite a lot of information about doing it online, which is really interesting, and you've got it's cold. It's probably not going to get above freezing all the way up there. It's middle of winter, so land of the midnight sun is going to be 24-hour darkness. It sounds pretty horrendous.
Sounds horrible.
But yeah,
but you'll remember it.
Sorry?
You'll remember it well.
That's it, yeah. And to me, that's one of the most important things about a bike trip. I'm more than happy to go on a trip in the summer. I'll happily go on one of those. But if I'm going to choose one trip as my dream ride, that's going to stick with me forever, and I'm going to cherish it and be able to tell people that I've done this. And I think Nordkapp in the middle of winter carries some. You get some kudos for doing that.
I think that theory
fair enough.
is really right though. Like, I'm sure all three of us and people listening back at home will all have
volunteering to go with him.
Well, I don't know about that. We'll see. I mean, I'm cold enough in my garage as it is, let alone above the Arctic Circle. But yeah. I think that's actually genuinely a lot of us will remember those really bad days from a tour much more than maybe some of the perfect days. I think you're right there. I think you're actually onto a good one in terms of making memories. However, I don't think it's going to be as fun as either of us during the actual
although briefly, actually, Ollie, I totally agree, because one of my strongest memories is 3 months after I passed my bike test. I went to the Pyrenees. Shouldn't have, because I didn't really have a clue how to ride a bike properly. I'd passed the test, but I'd hardly any experience. And I just remember riding up a Pyrenean mountainside, no sat-nav or anything like that, following the wiggly road, cloud, rain, gravel all over the road, just convinced I was going to die. Regretting, making the decision to ride a motorbike and go to Spain after 3 months. And you know what? At the end of the day, over a few beers with my mate who I was with, we were just laughing, joking, and that memory just will stick with me forever, because nowadays any of us will probably ride up that mountainside and be like, oh, that was fun, whereas for me it was a huge challenge, and I almost hated every second of doing it, but looking back now, it was brilliant, and I love it. So,
that's it.
Yeah, I kind of get your need to talk to yourself, Bryn, in a weird way.
You could put it that way. I'm sure there's a word for that.
Yeah, we won't go there. We'll move on to Ollie. Ollie, your dream trip, no budget limit, no time limit, or where would you go?
So I'm going to be quite predictable, and I'm going to basically follow the long way round route around the world. There will be a slight diversion. I'm not going to do the Road of Bones. Instead, I'm going to get to Vladivostok by skirting over the top edge of China, and then I'm going to take a ferry from Vladivostok, past North Korea, past South Korea, and then to Japan. I'm going to ride the length of Japan, and then I'll fly over to the west coast of the US. and I will do a nice big 3-month American and Canadian road trip, and then I'll head back via Morocco, I think.
That sounds nice, but you won't remember any of it.
No, I won't remember a single
too nice.
thing apart from the really horrible time. I'll have to go up to Alaska and see how cold it can get, so I can make some proper memories.
There you go.
And that's nice, actually. That's a good trip, because it sounds like you've got, obviously around the world trip. You've got a few epic journeys in one there. Obviously, you've got a great European trip. You're crossing Russia. You're going to have some desert in there, and then you've got an incredible North America trip as well. So it's a good shout.
Tell you where,
something I'd like to do.
Japan for me is one place that I would absolutely love to ride a bike, and that's quite I think it would really split up the American half and the kind of Asian half. But yeah, I think Japan, I don't really see that many stories of people riding there, and I'd love to explore it. It looks like an incredible country. I think 70% of Japan is countryside or mountainous, which you wouldn't think of if you see, there's a lot of representation of the giant cities they have there, these big hustling, bustling cities, but the countryside looks absolutely beautiful. And it's on the
I got these images of Mount Fuji in the background, and there's a winding mountain road lined with these perfectly pink blossom trees, and that's my
so romantic.
Am I riding up the middle of it?
Yeah, but that's what I think of when you say riding in Japan. You're right, I haven't heard many stories of people riding there.
Yeah. And
and I think one of the things that would attract me actually as well is that thrill and that excitement of being in a country where the culture is just so alien. It's a developed country, but the language is completely different. The customs and of the people are completely different, and it's for me a good bike trip is all about immersing yourself in that world as well. And I thoroughly enjoy exploring Europe, but you don't get that same feeling of being completely adrift in an alien world.
Could you imagine trying
I
to
imagine that would be a big thrill. No, it will be good. Sorry.
If you dream trip, money no object, time no object, and let's throw in like political. You've got someone owing you a political favour. Would you go into North Korea?
Yeah, you'd have to.
It'd be fascinating to see.
Yeah,
Hey,
absolutely. It'd be incredible. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, can you imagine? Like going through a world so, I imagine from what I've read, so cut off from the outside world that it's kind of how is it developed? How do people see the world? And if you were allowed, I'd just be fascinated to talk to as many people as possible and see how they view the world and how they view us as well. Because obviously we have a very negative view of North Korea, quite rightly. But it'd be fascinating to see how those people view the Western world as well.
Hell of a sticker on the
top
box.
I'm in. All right, we're there.
yeah, imagine that.
But Ollie, will you be wearing a "I Love You and Charlie" T-shirt all the way, or just to the start?
Yeah, we'll see about that. I might be in full long way around regalia.
Nice. So I've been given a lot of thought to my dream trip. So with no time limit, an unlimited budget, I haven't been able to get away from something that I've dreamed about doing for a long time, which is the Pan American Highway. It's a trip I was actually looking at doing before I joined ABR about 2 or 3 years ago. I'd been asking my wife about it for a while, or dropping hints, and I'd pretty much got permission to disappear off and do it for 6 months because she didn't seem that keen. Although I think it'd probably take closer to a year, but I didn't tell her that.
Once you're out there, it doesn't matter, do you?
Yeah. But I would have loved to have come, but she didn't really want to give up work and so forth. But yeah, I think. Yeah, it's one of those iconic trips on a motorcycle that I just love to do. And something that keeps coming back to me is something that Lois Price, the author, said to me when I was talking to her a little while ago. And her first book was about riding the Pan American Highway. It's called Lois on the Loose. She said she chose that route because the world changes so much over a relatively short distance. So you start in the remote barren landscape of Alaska up in Prudhoe Bay or similar, and ride down the Dalton Highway, then down into Canada, with its lush forests and through British Columbia, which is one of my favourite places in the world, and I revisit quite often, and then cruise down, the USA's Pacific Coast Highway, which I've actually bicycled the length of the Pacific Coast Highway, but never ridden it on a motorbike, which I absolutely love to do. And all those stereotypes about the West Coast of America for a tourist loving the place are all true. And then, kind of down into Mexico and the trails of Baja would be incredible to explore, and Central America and Costa Rica. I met a couple while I was riding in Thailand who are from Costa Rica, and they speak so warmly about their country and how forward-thinking it is environmentally and just how beautiful it is. And then dropping down to Colombia and further south, Bolivia, and then, those iconic roads like the Carretera Austral and Ruta 40 to finish off with. Just the landscape has just changed so much in that time. And Lois said to me, she looks at going around the world, but when you ride around the world, the landscape doesn't change as quickly, although it would be an incredible journey, don't you get me wrong? Whereas you experience so much in such things change so much in such a short distance that I think that'd have to be my trip.
Awesome.
Sounds incredible, but would you do the Darien Gap?
Yeah, completed it. Easy. Yeah.
Completed it, yeah.
The Darien Gap, yeah. So that's so it's a section of supposedly impenetrable jungle, forest, land in Colombia, isn't it? It separates North Colombia with Panama.
That's yeah, pretty much. So between South America and Central America, there's like this band of, like you said, impenetrable forest and jungle, where if you're talking about Pan America, it stops on the northern side of that and starts again just south of it, doesn't it?
And it's known for having bandits there and tribes and it's meant to be a very dangerous place. People have crossed it on motorbikes, on 4x4s. It's doable. Would I do it on my dream trip? Well, I guess with time, time was unlimited. I guess I'd have to give it a go, but in my mind and in my heart, when I'm thinking about my trip, I'm loving the idea of just jumping on a boat for a few days and experiencing a sea journey as part of that motorcycle adventure. So I don't know.
See, going by Bryn's
rationale, I'm not adventurous enough, but
going by Bryn's rationale, you're skipping out on the most memorable part of that trip.
That's it.
Absolutely. Well,
I'm just not as hardcore as Bryn Davis. Go on.
They went near. If I think of, probably the most iconic adventure motorcycling image for me is this photo of a Norwegian guy. Cool, and I'm probably going to butcher his name now. It's either Helge or Helge Pedersen, and he rode through the Darien Gap. And I say rode through. Most of his time was spent pulling and winching his bike over these steep banks of like jungle, and there's this iconic picture of him winching his bike up this almost vertical like mud bank, and he's there. He looks sweaty, looks dirty. He's in this ripped sleeveless top, and he just looks so hardcore. It epitomizes like the image of adventure biking.
I could be in a ripped sleeveless top drinking a beer on the deck. I'm just saying, but maybe perhaps it hasn't got the same effect. Okay, so they're no time limits, unlimited budget. They're the trips we'd like to do this year. They're the dreams. But what bikes would we do it on? Ollie, what bike are you talking about to do your Ewan and Charlie long way round with diversions?
It's gonna have to be either of the bikes behind me. And I can't decide which one.
That's
good. It's very handy, and I haven't done that on purpose, I promise. The GS 650 Twin, because that was my bike before I came to ABR. It's a bike I've racked up, 20 odd European countries on, and I think the idea of filling up the panniers with a few more stickers would just be awesome. And we all have bikes that mean something to us. On the other side is this big boy, and I don't think he could get away from I love riding the Africa Twin. If our viewers and listeners have been reading our long-term sections in the magazine, then they'll know quite how much I like riding that bike. I've really enjoyed the last year I've spent with it.
It's almost unhealthy how much you love that bike, I have to say.
Almost.
There's a lot of love there. Love being the word. But it's a big old machine. I think the Africa Twin is a sensational motorcycle, but something that big on kind of very remote areas, tough terrain. Do you think you're cool with that?
Yeah, I think you kind of think about, obviously the Mongolian sections might be a bit trickier, but at the same time I feel like all of that hard work is A, going to be memorable, and B, when I get to America and Canada, that is the mile munching bike that I want to be touring that continent on. I think just cruising along, CarPlay on, Spotify blaring out the best American road trip playlist I can think of. Oh, it's going to have to be the Africa Twin.
It is a lovely long distance road touring bike, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah,
there we go. So you've made your choice. Africa Twin. All right, Bryn, what are you doing your cold, dark, rainy, miserable journey to the north of the world on?
To me, there's only one bike for it. And that is probably a bike that a lot of people would say is going to be wildly inappropriate. But it's the Ducati Multistrada Enduro. And there is very good reason for that. For me, it's I'm going to say it's up there with my favourite bikes. It's just so damn comfortable, and long distance performance. It's incredible. It's going to be, it's a big, heavy bike, particularly if you're dropping it on ice and snow. But that's why I'd have someone with me. And if I've got the money for a dream trip, no budget, I could hire 10 people to follow me and pick up a bike for me.
But again, I guess your trip, you're looking at mostly road riding, right? So, in terms of
100%.
road touring bikes, a little like the Africa Twin, they're great adventure bikes, but they're brilliant on the road, aren't they?
Yeah, so it'd be 100% on road. I would love to do it off road, but I don't think I've got the necessary. I think off road in Norway, I'm guessing in winter the snow is going to be like shoulder height. So I'm not going to do that. But on road, spikes in the tires, I think it's for me the ideal bike, and just how wide that tank is, the amount of weather protection you get from it. In terms of weather protection, it's almost unrivaled in the adventure motorcycling section of motorcycles. But there is also two fellas from Italy who stole my idea and rode to Nordkap in winter on Multistrada Enduros.
How dare they?
I know. And they've got a fantastic video about doing it. And when they do it, they make it look super easy. But I'm sure it was.
Yeah, I can't imagine it was as easy as that video. I know the video you're talking about, and it looks awesome. But yeah, it almost looks like
I've just got a vision of you on a Multistrada Enduro like a snowplow, just blasting through it. Drifts up to your screen or something. But
I think based on what I've seen, they're pretty good at maintaining the roads there, because they have to be. Because the funny thing is, right, these roads are probably some mothers commute to school to drop her kids off.
Yeah, that's it.
So one woman's morning drop off to the school is my adventure of a lifetime, which is quite funny to think about. Yeah, so I've Multistrada Enduro Pro, and I highly recommend watching that video of the two Italian fellas riding to Nordkap on Ducatis. We'll put it in the description below the video as well. It's an incredible video.
Cool. So we've got Multistrada Enduro, we've got an Africa Twin.
What's yours?
Well, mine. I think you might be able to guess.
Yeah.
But my favourite mid-size adventure bike. What's it going to be?
Does it begin with
K? It's got to be yeah, I think it does.
The KTM. Well, last year as a long-termer, I had a long-term loan bike. I had a KTM 790 Adventure, which I absolutely loved, and I was also lucky enough to ride the 790 Adventure R, which is the more off-road version, a couple of times last year as well. And I just adore the bike. I think it's absolutely incredible. So for me, for a mix of long-distance road riding, playing on some trails in Baja, rough roads, everything as a perfect all-rounder. I'd love the 790 Adventure R, and now there's an 890 out, which I haven't ridden yet, but ABR's bike tester Julian assures me that it's even better than last year's bike. It just have to be the one for me. It's got 20 litre fuel tank, which I've got 250 miles plus out of on motorway riding. It's really good for an off-road. It's not the lightest bike in the world, but it's also not the heaviest. But with those tanks nice and low down, you've got a low centre of gravity, and it's just an excellent bike. And everyone has a moan about it being ugly. Personally, I think it looks really cool. I like it. I do.
Well, maybe from one particular angle, but
It would be. No, I would love to do it on that bike. But that being said, if my wife changed her mind and decided she wanted to come with me, she doesn't ride, so she'd be pillion. It would be a very different adventure, and it would be as road-based as possible. And under those circumstances, if I'd have to research a bit more, if there are the roads to go all the way down, bike with the most comfort in the world for two people, it's got to be the
That's one
Goldwing.
choice.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the Goldwing. I do. I spent 2 weeks in Spain with my wife on a Honda Goldwing, and it was just a dream for 2-hour travel. Maybe doing Rules to 40 on a Goldwing is a stupid idea, but
Oh, you could do it,
we'd
James.
be comfortable up till there anyway. But no, given it my dream trip, I'm going on my own. It's got to be that KTM 790 Adventure R or the 890 Adventure R. It's just sensational
Yeah,
machine.
you fell in love with that bike. I've never seen you so smitten with a
Yeah,
motorcycle before,
no,
which was
and-
interesting.
I love motorbikes and I love them for lots of different reasons, but that bike made me a better rider. I think it was just so capable at everything that I tried more and progressed my riding more on that bike than I have at anything in a long time. Perhaps maybe not I did ride the 701 Enduro LR last year, the Husqvarna, and that, off-road, that was absolutely brilliant. But
Something else, isn't it?
Yeah, but in terms of adventure bikes, that's the one. So there we go.
Fair play.
That's the bikes we're taking, but this is our dream trip. We've got all the time in the world. We've also got no budget limits, so we can bring a friend if we want to, and cover their costs and for a while. But so on your trip, Bryn, who would you take with you on who could you convince to go with you on your thoroughly miserable trip to NorCal?
I think that answers the question: is who wants to come? I think Naomi, my partner, would have to be out of the question. She gets cold riding around the Cotswolds in summer, so probably not. And I think you two guys, you're pretty fair weather riders, so you're out of it.
Charming.
I'm sure I could find someone. I'd definitely have to have someone with me, purely for helping me pick up my bike, especially if I'm going for the Multistrada. You drop that 2, 3, 4 times a day, it's going to get pretty tiring pretty quick. But let's say dream trip. I want someone who's experienced at doing it, who's done it before, and can make it a success for me. And I remember chatting to this chap called Jacques Lucassen. I think I've just butchered his name as well as Helge Pedersen's, but it's spelled SJAAK.
Didn't he play for Leeds, Helge Pedersen?
No, but Jacques, he's ridden to Nordkap in winter. He's done various other nuts winter trips, and I'm pretty sure he does it on. It's a sports bike. I'm pretty sure it's an R1. So he's used to taking inappropriate bikes places that they shouldn't be going. And I met him down in London a few years back, and I was quite. Had a few drinks. I was chatting to him about going to Nordkap in winter, and he seemed keen to join me. So,
Nice.
So
It
I wonder
kind of
if
sounds like you were chatting him up at a bar, very drunk.
I was.
You've been lining this plan up for a while.
I have, yeah. It's all the cards are finally putting in place, but yeah, maybe Jacques or there's the sidecar guys who seem like really good fun, and they rode across Siberia in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
Matt and Reese, yeah, they did. They wrote a feature in ABR about crossing Siberia in winter, and it sounds nuts. Like you can't close your visor because it's so cold. Yeah, that's it. You can't close your visor because it's so cold that your breath freezes on the visor. They said it was horrendous, but it sounds great.
There you go. Well, he's a lucky man, whoever you take, or woman. But, so Ollie, who you're taking on your round the world trip?
See, I know that I could choose anyone, and obviously, if you and Charlie and Claudio are unavailable, then I'm gonna have to say I'm going solo.
Such a fanboy.
Unashamedly so.
You're going alone?
I would be going alone. Yeah. I've done a couple of kind of longer solo trips, and I love traveling on my own on the bike. I think that what you said earlier about immersing yourself into cultures, I think whenever you travel on your own, particularly on a bike because it's such an easy conversation starter, but I think that you kind of have to catapult yourself into every social kind of bit of contact, every meeting, every person that you bump into. And also, I think being a solo traveller, people tend to take a bit more pity on you. They offer you a sofa, they offer you a place to stay. So yeah, I'm gonna say I'll be doing it solo.
Yeah, interesting.
But
Do you think
yeah.
you might get a little bit lonely, like on the road for that amount of time? Do you think? Because you're going to some pretty remote areas where you're not going to see people, or is that part of it? It's just escaping the world, just you and the road.
So, well, this is again kind of going back to Bryn's point. I did. We mentioned it earlier. I rode up to Nordkapp in Norway, and I did Norway. I rode around Norway for 4 weeks, and I was on my own and wild camping a lot of the time because it's a very expensive country, and that was the best way to save money. And it was tough, but also, again, the most memorable evenings were the ones where my tent flooded because I was caught in a storm and I was on my own. And the feeling of kind of coming away at the end of it and having done that all on my own, it's a very rewarding feeling. And I think that going around the world on my own on a motorcycle would be my dream. So yeah, I'm sticking with my decision, as much as I'm sure if I was in the Mongolian flats after 2 weeks on my own, I would probably say very different if you asked me at that point in time. Yeah.
I get that. I get that. But so I would usually say I prefer riding by myself. But I think I've come to realise, and this is going to be quite deep, that
Gonna bare your soul.
yeah, I like going solo, but I like sharing my experiences with people even more. And so many times I've ridden in amazing places, and I've been sitting there thinking, wow, isn't this cool? Looking around like, this is amazing. I wish someone else was here with me to share this. Which is, and yeah, even if it's Naomi on the back of the bike, and I'm like, Naomi, isn't this amazing? Or James, when we go places and we sit down and sit on the side of the road and
eat
just
kebabs.
bask in the place we are eating kebab. Yeah, when you're on your own, it's kind of you don't get that. But at the same time, motorcycles are kind of the great equalizer, aren't they? You could meet, you could be anyone, and you could meet the CEO of like the Fortune 500 company, and if he's into motorbikes, you've instantly got a connection.
Yep. And probably
I think
really
of all the
nice
people I
sofa to
know,
sit on.
Of all the people I know, Ollie, you're probably the best person to do this, though, because what viewers might not know about Ollie is he just people gravitate towards him. So like, the three of us will be out for a ride and we'll stop, maybe, I don't know, grab a coffee, grab a sausage roll or something, and every time you turn around, someone's just approached Ollie and they're having a chat, or he's bent over with someone looking at various aspects of a bike or something. He can't go anywhere without someone approaching him and having a chat, which is lovely, but also slows you down a lot.
Yeah, it takes a long time in petrol stations, honestly.
Yes, it does. But there you go. Sorry.
Yeah, what about you, James?
Me?
What's yours? Who are you taking?
Well, it's a bit of a cliche, but I will say I love travelling with my wife. Two up with her is it's a different type of motorcycle journey, so I would love to do that. But that's the obvious answer, so I'm not going to go there. So I think, to be honest, of all the fascinating people in the world you could love to take, but personally, I'd love to do a trip like that with my dad. I think it'd just be brilliant. We'd have a great time. We'd have a really, really good fun, and what a thing to do with your dad as well.
Yeah.
Just go and ride one of the world's iconic journeys. So I think that'd certainly be it.
Have you been away with your dad before?
Good choice.
We haven't done a big trip together, no. So I think that would be
well overdue.
Do you think he'd come to Nordkapp with me?
I really don't. No. You're welcome to ask him, but I think maybe kind of the tropics and Central America might appeal more in California. But there we go. But that's it. Yeah, so that's who I'd love to go on a bike trip with.
Good choice.
There we go. So we've got our route. We've got our friends, or Ollie has got no
lack
friends,
thereof.
and we've got our bikes. But how are we travelling? What are we doing this trip in? Remember, money's no object, but does spending more money necessarily make a trip better? Probably not. Bryn, how are you travelling? You're camping? You're hoteling? What's going on?
I was just nodding then because spending money. There's going to be some people who don't agree with this, but spending money makes any trip good. Staying in the best places. You can you hear people say, "Oh, yeah, I slept in this ditch over here, and I met this guy who was sleeping in a ditch over, and we had a good chat."
Cue the ranting comments.
But you can meet people in a nice hotel as well.
Which you've got quite a perverse approach to motorcycle touring, because you want to have the worst weather in the dark, kind of the toughest challenge of the three of us. But you want to stay in a 5-star hotel at the end of the day as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want to be comfortable in the evenings, but I'd wild camp. I'd take a tent, wild camp in some places just to experience it. I'm no stranger to sleeping in cold, harsh environment. I slept in a snow hole at Mont Blanc when I was 16. Me and my dad went to climb it, and I slept in a snow hole up there. It was minus 20 odd degrees. Camped along the West Highland Way in the middle of winter as well, which was very cold, like minus 10. So I got.
Have you ever heard of a summer holiday?
I've done my part of sleeping in cold tents. So.
Okay.
I would get a nice hotel whenever possible.
Yeah.
Nice. Ollie, are you joining Bryn in a suite in a hotel, or are you camping?
See, I will represent the other side here and say that I'll be doing a lot of camping, particularly in the first half of the trip. I'll be doing lots of camping, hopefully couch surfing. I've heard Russia has a brilliant motorcycle culture, and again, going back to the sidecar guys, Matt and Reese. Their trip through Siberia, it seemed that they couldn't move for bikers offering them a place to stay and a bottle of vodka or 3. So I think that the first half of the trip, definitely wing it, wild camp, and hopefully see what happens with couch surfing. But then when it comes to America, I know you're going to laugh at me for this because we have an unlimited budget, but it has to be a motel, doesn't it? Proper American road trip, motels, dive bars, the works. That sounds like the dream.
One of those motels with a coin-operated kind of massager with the bed. So you put a quarter in, and the whole thing kind of shakes and vibrates.
I haven't been to one of them.
Which hotels you've been staying in?
If only you had someone to share it with. Yeah. No, fair enough. And you mentioned couch surfing, actually, which is something that some people just may not think of doing, or may associate with kind of younger backpackers or something like that. But I know you've done a fair amount of it, particularly in Europe. Is it something that you'd recommend people kind of dip into?
Yeah, I love it, and I love staying in hostels as well. Although since I bought a pair of City Adventure 2 boots, I don't think hostels love me staying in them, because at 7 a.m. when it comes to packing up the bike, I'm that one, if you go to a hostel and there's always at least one annoying person in there. If you've been and stayed in a hostel and you haven't seen the annoying person there, it was probably you. And in that case, that was definitely me going around Spain, squeaking my way through every hostel in Barcelona, Madrid, and the North Coast. Hostels, couch surfing, it's a great way of meeting people. If you stay with bikers, it's a great way of finding the best local roads that you might not have heard of. So I would definitely recommend that.
Yeah, and I'm not a believer in that you need to rough it to have an adventure. I think adventure comes in many, many different forms. But for my Pan America trip, my romantic vision is camping. It really is. Whether you're up in Alaska and have to worry slightly about bears, but I've done a lot of camping along the Pacific coast of America. As I mentioned earlier, I cycled it, and I spent a couple of months cycling from Canada down to Mexico along that coastline, camping every night. And it was just those memories of having a beer around a fire at the end of the day and catching up with various people who are also staying at the campsite and things like that just have stuck with me for so long. And I met some brilliant people that I've stayed friends with to this day. And so I think, as much as possible, kind of just laying out under the stars, fire going, and enjoying that aspect of it would be fantastic. Although I know for sure the chances of me doing that continually are pretty minimal, so I will find myself in hotels, a little diversion to Vegas maybe. But also, Ollie, something you mentioned about hostels. I'm actually a big fan of hostels, and I think in the UK maybe the whole kind of youth hostel association makes people, puts people off them. But whether you're in Europe or further afield, hostels are a great way to kind of plug into other travellers and cook some food up and get to know a few people along your route. So I think a little bit of a mix of that for me.
Awesome.
Fair enough.
Good choice.
There we go. That's it. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the ABR Garage. I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing about your guys' journeys. I really have. It's fueled my desire to get out and explore the world on two wheels even more than it was before. And I'm sure plenty of you guys watching have got plans, dreams of your own for 2021. There's a lot of riding to be caught up on. So please do leave us your comments below this video. Let us know what you've got planned. We'll try and reply to them all, and we'll pick out some to read out and talk about in the next episode of the ABR Garage. Please do subscribe to the channel. There's plenty more coming, whether it's podcasts, bike reviews, gear reviews, and lots of stuff like that. So please do subscribe, and we'll let you know when each video comes out. And if you've enjoyed hearing about the tours and you're in need of a little bit of inspiration for your riding travels this year, the whole episode has been based on a feature called Tours for 2021, which appeared in the current issue of Adventure Bike Rider magazine. Now, the print edition of that magazine has now sold out, unfortunately, but you can read it by signing up to the ABR digital library, and you'll actually sign up. If you do sign up, you can get access to every single issue of ABR ever printed over the past 10 years, and that's on your phone, your tablet, and your computer. So just go to www.adventurebikerider.com to find out more. Bryn, Ollie, thanks very much. It's been a great chat. I think the sun's gone down as we've been chatting. Your faces have got darker and darker.
And you can now see my breath coming out as well.
That's it. So, but no, thanks very much for joining us. It's been a real treat. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And,
had a great
looking forward to when we can get back together.
I can't wait until we can head out and go for that fry up and then hit the road.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. So thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll all see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.